Yo, what is going on, guys? Episode 68 of many. It is Thursday morning, October 16th. This will release on Tuesday, whatever day of the week that is, or whatever day of the month that is. So this will be our next episode. I am getting ready to leave for Vegas today, Las Vegas. We are flying from Madison to Minneapolis, Minneapolis to Las Vegas, and then we've got like a 30-minute drive outside of Las Vegas. So no, we're not going to the casinos and gambling. We are going there for a bunch of gym owners kind of get together twice a year. We get a pretty cool Airbnb to all hang out at. We've got some guest speakers who come in and just have some good conversations, a lot of networking, and just hear from some of these guest speakers on what they specialize in and how we can maybe bring that over to our business and make our business more successful or improve our business in some way. So super excited about that. We fly in, we get there about 4 o'clock, I think, this afternoon. We got about a 30-minute drive, and then I think it's like dinner right when we get there. It's dinner and check-in. And then Thursday night, the first night when we go on these trips, usually what it is they do what's called like hot seats. And what they try to do is they try to find some of these gym owners. They bring them up in front of everybody, which is already nerve-wracking. I did this last trip, if any of you guys were listening to the podcast, some 25 episodes ago, whenever the last trip was. And so they bring you up in front of everybody and kind of ask, like, why are you here? Why are you doing what you're doing? And you have to try to really kind of go deep. They're not going to just let you off the hook and say, because I like to work out. They really want to know why you're doing what you're doing and what your long-term plan is, what got you into this, you know. And sometimes what happens is they find some of these gym owners don't have a why, or they don't know why they're still doing it. They're more like, I think I might not want to do this anymore, right? And sometimes it turns into a lot of emotions and stuff too while these gym owners up there. Some of these gym owners have a lot of these gym owners are like more personal training studio style people. So some of them have not because they're personal training studios, but some of them have very intense stories or situations that cause them to be where they are today. So naturally, when they come up and give their why, it can be emotional. So it was very interesting when I went up there last time, and I did a good job, but I was rather nervous. But a couple other gym owners, there was emotions, and so that's usually what the first night is. We get up there, we have a couple hours of just listening to other people's stories, and kind of put them on the hot seat right away. And then Friday and Saturday is basically guest speakers all day. We've got one Friday, one Saturday. We'll have breakfast as a group of people. We'll have a morning session. We'll have lunch as a group of people, maybe like a little bit of a break. Then we go right back into an afternoon session. And then usually there's not much break. We go into a dinner and then like networking on first night. I can't remember what the itinerary is. I feel like somebody's coming to the house Friday night that we're staying at to like do like a little performance or something. Like I think last event we went to, we had like a magician, which is just fun, just like stupid little things to kind of, again, laugh and let loose and get together. And then I believe Saturday, we've got Russell Brunson coming to the house, which is super awesome. He is, like I said, one of the co-founders of ClickFunnels. He'll be doing guest speaking all day. And then I believe Saturday night, they intend on taking us down to the Strip, and we've got another show we're going to go watch, one of those, Las Vegas shows for an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's one of those people, what do they call them? When they, like an illusionist or something like that, I think. So it'll be super cool. But that's the plan. And then Sunday morning, G and I got to head to the airport right away, fly to Denver, catch the Bronco game real quick. And that'll actually make travel for me, I feel like, easier on the way home. I'm very big on my sleep routine. I try to be as religious about that as I can. So in bed at 8:20, waking up at 5:20, that's like my time slots. So the hour change or the 2 hour change to Vegas is already going to kind of throw me off a little bit. It'll only be for a couple days. Then I'll fly to Denver, have just a 1 hour time difference. And then I'll kind of ease back into our time difference. So I know it's not big. It's not that big of a deal, but just a little tweak in your sleep routine really can throw you off. So that is what I'm doing. So that's why you're hearing from me this morning. Me and G got a quick workout here at Grizzly Life. I don't make it over here a whole lot for workouts in the morning. Usually I go to Berlin. Berlin's just usually a little bit more quiet in the morning. So I'm just over there kind of doing my own thing. And today I said, you know what, we got to record a podcast before we go so you can get this edited over the weekend / Monday when we're back. So that's why we're here. Got a quick chest and tricep workout in, doing a podcast for you guys. So we've got a couple notes here. It's not going to be a super long episode. We got to go back, finish packing, and then hit the road. But my current routine, for those of you listening, maybe you guys are interested in hearing about my current routine, maybe not, but I'd like to give some updates. I feel like I've been a little fall off-ish lately of my normal routine. I know a couple weeks ago I was explaining to you how I'm doing my journaling. I'm writing down my intentions for the week, my personal health and fitness goals. I did that pretty strong for 3-ish weeks. And then now I've tried to kind of go without writing them down and still fulfilling them. So no alarm, red light glasses before bed, no eating past, certain times. It's not easy to have very strict routines and all of this stuff, especially with running the business and running around. So I've let loose on a couple of the restrictions. So I do think it's good to have a very strong routine, especially to kind of get you back in a routine. So by me doing that for the last 3 weeks, it did re-implement some of those habits that I was lacking. The snoozing your alarm, getting up right away, getting your steps in, all of those things definitely have improved over the last 3-4 weeks. My fitness routine, my overall strength workout routine, I feel like has been a little bit more lazy. I feel like I've just been enjoying the other things in life a little bit more. For example, the Brewers are playing really well. So, when they're playing on a weeknight and we go out to have some drinks and watch the Brewers, that kind of screws up my routine. But I do realize this isn't a permanent situation. I'm not going to be going out every, Monday night or whatever it is. And the games have been really late at night. If you do follow, sometimes they're playing at 8, 9, 7, whatever time. So that's just been kind of like throwing me off a little bit. And then watching the Denver Broncos on Sunday. So I've got excuses. I'm not saying you can't live life. I want you guys to know that I'm a normal person too. I'm not like this robot of a perfect routine. So just so you're aware, we are human. We go in phases. We go in seasons. Again, of this, like I said, maybe summer is the routine where I'm really dialed in on my fitness. I'm not saying that's a good excuse to only work out during the summer, but we go in phases. There's times in life where we're on our highs, and there's some times where we gotta work harder, and we might not be able to work out as much, right? As long as we come back to that routine at some point, and we don't go too long without it, I do think that's okay. So just letting you guys know, I haven't been perfect by any means. I've been still getting like reading done and stuff like that, but the last couple days I've had to come work out earlier in the morning, so I don't get to get my hour of reading in before I even start my day. So that puts a little bind on how much reading I can get done. That means I only get to read, 20 pages before bed, depending on what's going on. So anyways, that's my current routine. I did write down supplements as well. I'm not going to dive into what supplements I am taking or not taking, but about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I can't remember where I was. I was on a trip for, a week or whatever it was, and I didn't bring any of my supplements with me. I just kind of used it as a reset. Hey, we're not going to take anything. We're just going to take a little soft reset and then come back into it. So I kind of, when I was out in Orlando and in Nashville, so early September. So I didn't take any supplements for those 8 or 9 days or whatever that was, came back, and then I still continued like no supplements. As far as like we're just talking, basically no supplements at all. Gave it another week when I got back, and then I kind of started going like onesies and twosies. So I went multivitamin. Actually, I think I just went creatine. Then I went creatine and multivitamin, and I kind of just started adding one thing back into time just to see like how I was feeling and how I was functioning. And I'm still taking, so at night I take my magnesium glycinate and my KSM 66 or ashwagandha. I take those about an hour and a half before I go to bed. I was lacking some deep sleep about 2 months ago, so I started taking those, and my deep sleep and REM sleep and all that stuff has improved again. So once I run out of these bottles of them, I probably will kind of wean off of those. They're not like taking melatonin. They're not going to screw with your natural production of anything. They just help help you with a deeper sleep. They help you kind of like calm down before you go to bed. So if any of you have sleeping problems, look into those too. Do your own research and see if those work for you. So my day-to-day supplements right now, I guess I said I wasn't going to tell you everything, but I will just give you the notes. I'm taking creatine. I take about 7.5 grams of creatine a day. Creatine everybody should be taking, no matter what age, male or female. Creatine is like the number one thing that everybody should be taking. It used to have a bad rap, but it is the number one thing. Mental clarity, feeling good. You just got to drink water when you're taking creatine, right? So we could talk a lot more about creatine and all of that. So creatine, multivitamin, make sure it's methylated. I'm taking a nitric oxide booster before my workout to make sure I got good blood flow going. I do take fish oil every day. I take a liquid form. I just feel like it's, doing a little bit of research on it. It claims to be more absorbable. So I've been taking fish oil, liquid form, and then I take glutathione. I don't know how to say it. I take that in the morning on an empty stomach, and then I take Tongkat Ali in the morning as well for like a natural testosterone booster. So those are some things I take. I highly recommend everybody's on a multivitamin for the most part. I highly recommend it definitely make sure it's methylated. A fish oil and a creatine. I think those are the three things that everybody definitely should be taking. I'm sure there's more that I'm forgetting about, but those three in my stack I would recommend for everybody. I do have a quick story, and I will relate this back to the point. I'm not going to get into the numbers aspect, but here's a quick story for you guys. So we always do a tax extension. We've been slowly improving our books over the years as far as like good bookkeeping and that kind of stuff. So we do have a bookkeeper that we hire out. She works with our team, and she makes sure that everything's getting reconciled and cleaned up. And then we prepare our taxes, and she sends them off. But typically we're late. Usually we're not hitting the April 15th mark. Usually we're filing an extension, and then what happens is they're due October 15th. So I made two errors, and I'll explain both of them very quickly. One error was last year, me and Jacob, partner at Grizzly O-Town up in Oshkosh, we created a new partnership last year. I asked my accountant how that works. They said, just, send us the books and like, we'll take care of it, basically was the conversation. And I said, okay, great. And when I filed the extension, which I don't do, I just messaged the accountant and say, hey, I assume we filed an extension because we're obviously up to the last date here. And they're like, yep, it's already filed. You're good to go. So great. I didn't think much of it. So with a partnership, for those of you that don't know, since we didn't notify really the accountant of more of the situation, they never filed an extension for that part of the business. I didn't know it worked like that. I thought maybe I just got an extension as an individual because I'm the sole owner of the other businesses. So I thought maybe since we filed an extension that was just kind of included, but apparently not. It's a different partnership. We had to file a separate extension for that. And then that was actually due like September 15th instead of October 15th. So we did make the deadline to have our taxes reported before September 15th, but we never filed the extension. So shame on me for not knowing what to do. But again, it's your first time in business like that. So you don't learn until you learn, right? You don't know until you know. So obviously, if that was like the only business I had, like if I had just one business and I had opened up as a partnership and then I got set up with an accountant, I probably wouldn't have made those errors. But since I've had these other businesses that are already filing taxes, I figured, it's all just happening. I just let them know that I've got a new business and we're good. So shame on me, right? And then the other story, and then I'll explain why I'm saying these. We filed our taxes, late. I got home literally 2 days ago, checked the income taxes, and I'm like, I better not owe any money to the IRS because we already prepaid taxes last year. So that way we prepaid an estimated amount is how it works for a business. And so I open it and it says we owe more money. And I'm like, how is that possible? Like we already paid a good chunk into it at the beginning of 2025, technically for 2024 taxes. Why would we owe more? And long story short, called the accountant. He goes, no, you didn't make a prepayment. I don't see that anywhere, blah, blah, blah. I called my brother. He was in the office. I had him look up some stuff for me. We found out that we did, in fact, prepay. So then I called the accountant back, and I'm like, hey, you guys sent me vouchers last year to make these prepayments, and you're still saying I owe money. This doesn't make any sense. And they go, well, we can't track when you pay the IRS. We just, I don't know how they didn't have records of them paying, like sending me the voucher to say, hey, pay this. I figure when the accountant says you have to pay this voucher amount by January 15th of 2025, that I'm basically obligated to do so. So for some reason, it wasn't pulling up in their system or whatever. And luckily, I had remembered that I was pretty positive we made those payments. So checks and balances, we have our records, we double checked. And then I found the payments from our accounts and verified that and sent them to the accountant. They got it all squared away. And the moral of the story here, without going into too much detail, is when you delegate tasks, here's one statement. You cannot delegate tasks that you do not know. Now, obviously, I don't know how to be an accountant, so I'm not saying you can't delegate that, but you should know a little bit about taxes, because the story there is like at the end of the year, even if you're going to owe money, your accountant's not going to go out of way to have a conversation with you unless you've got a really good accountant who cares about you or does a really good job. They're not going to go out of their way to say, hey, looking at your books in November, it looks like you're going to owe about $30,000 in taxes. It wouldn't be a bad idea to buy X, Y, or Z to, maybe reduce some taxes. Now, when it comes to taxes, the rule of thumb, For those of you that know, in a business, if you buy a $5,000 vehicle, that doesn't mean you save $5,000 in deductions. There's like a certain ratio, right? If you spend $5,000, I might save 500 on my taxes. The way it all works out with the tax rates and stuff. So don't buy things you don't need as a fair rule of thumb. And taxes are okay because it shows you're profitable. So I'm not complaining there. But if you want to be in control of your taxes, you have to be in control of your books a little bit. And you have to understand, like, hey, it's November. I should probably connect with my accountant and just double check and make sure they've got everything I need. Because obviously once the year strikes, once it strikes January 1st, that kind of stuff gets closed out and then taxes are due, right? So when you're relying on others, you just have to be careful because they're not always going to have your best interest in mind. So know what, and I was just talking about this last episode. You need to know a little bit of everything just to protect yourself and understand a little bit of everything. So be careful. If it weren't for me having some good checks and balances in the business, we wouldn't have, because even like I told the accountants that we had a new business and is there anything special I need to do? And they basically said, no, just, you're going to have to file this or whatever. They didn't do any follow-up. They weren't going out of their way to make sure I was taken care of. So that's, again, shame on me. I can't blame them. I don't know how they didn't have the voucher thing logged. So luckily I've got a good memory and I remember that. And it was just in the nick of time. This was literally the day before we were going to have to make another IRS payment. So October 14th. So anyways, just be careful when you're delegating tasks out. And, just know that you have to kind of double check on those things. And that's something that I don't do a great job of when I delegate tasks to our team. I don't do necessarily a great job of follow-up. I have a lot of trust and respect for my team. So I just assume things are getting done. And I just assume that I'm going to be told when things are done. So I could do a little bit better of like the checks and balances, especially on like high priority things. But just a little story there for you. Be careful and keep an eye out. And especially when it comes to big ticket items like taxes. So my next one kind of rolls right into that. Respecting everybody on your team as equals. I think this is very important. And so I've been doing my team meetings or my individual meetings with our PF guys. And one of the things I stressed was that we want to build a culture where everybody is bringing each other up. And I don't want the guys, there are levels, right? You've got managers, you've got owners, you've got like just your new employees. We know there's levels. There's levels of how long you've been here. There's levels of how much you know. Like, we're not going to lie about that. We know that there's different things going on within an organization. But when it comes to talking to each other, we want to be able to have good conversations. We want to be able to call each other out respectfully. We want to be able to fix the issue. We want to make sure, especially our upper management, we want to make sure those newer guys or those base level, however you want to explain that level, we want to make sure those guys feel like they can be heard. And it's important that we have mutual respect across the board. We're all equals. We're all leaders in our own little area, and we all work together to, create the goal, the ideal outcome, what we're trying to achieve, right? So it's important to build a culture that we have mutual respect and that we're all equals within reason, of course. So one of the things we've been hammering on is that I want my team to send more praise around. I want to make sure everybody is respecting each other, but also saying, hey, you did a great job yesterday on the install. You did the warehouse looks great, Kyle. You've been kicking ass. You know what I mean? I want to make sure that our beginners know that they need to send praise up the ladder so that our managers or our upper level guys are like, hey, I'm doing a good job and my guys are happy, because that makes them happy to know that they're making the jobs easier for those guys. Same thing goes for the managers. They need to be sending praise out to all the guys. Hey, you did a fantastic job in the install yesterday. Just want to let you know you worked really hard, and I'm really happy that you're picking things up really well, right? That culture just spreads. It's an amazing thing once that happens and that appreciation levels. And once we start building that, I think we're all on the same playing field. And like I said, I'm really trying to push that all levels of guys across all boards, they're going direct to one another for coworkers. They're going up the ladder, down the ladder. We need to make sure everybody's having good conversation. And that's what we're going to instill over at Grizzly as well, right? Like, so we're just working on this priority fitness vision right now, but it's a very important thing just to have mutual respect, have good open conversations, be able to work out problems, make decisions, and do it respectfully and understandably. Like, just get on that same playing field. So I think that can go for your personal relationships as well. especially like spouses and that kind of stuff, just getting that open conversation, honest conversation, that level playing field, and just having good conversations with one another. So that's one thing that I've been working on with the team. Just thought you guys would enjoy that. And I think that kind of relates back to the accountant story as well. Like, nobody's necessarily above you. So even when you're hiring out these companies, you still have to be cautious and, take care of yourself. So they make mistakes. People make mistakes. I was upset about this because obviously we pay an accountant to be an accountant. And how do you not realize the voucher situation? But at the same time, we make mistakes in our own company. They were very apologetic. They've never really done me wrong, so I do enjoy them. And that's just how it is. So I've got one or two more little notes here, and then we'll wrap this one up. So it's important to have regular conversations / check-ins, being open, honest. And I think this is kind of where more like the relationship side comes out of it. But it's very important to, if we do not have a conversation quick enough, if we let these last two kind of go together, actually. So if we do not have a conversation quick enough, we let our emotions bottle up. So in personal relationships, especially, this little thing, that little thing, this little thing, that little thing, they start to add up. And then that one thing happens and they all come out. We all know, we've all been there. You haven't been treating me right like this. This makes me mad. You didn't even realize. And it's not fair to that person you're unbottling all of those emotions to have this laundry list of things. It's not easy again, humans do good on one task. When you give them 10 things they did wrong, it's like, oh, wow, what do I fix first? And how do I go about this? And how do I apologize for all of these things, right? So having regular conversations and building the relationship that way, whether, again, it's personal relationships, spouse, or business relationships, building that culture to say, hey, when we have an issue, we both need to know we can sit down and have the conversation. We can have the hard talk. We just need to know there's, again, that mutual respect. Like, hey, I know that we're going to make we're going to make each other upset once in a while. We're going to say things maybe we didn't mean, or we're going to say things that, we need to explain better or whatever, because a lot of it's just a miscommunication, right? Didn't say the entire sentence, or I didn't say the entire story, and you only heard half of it and you're upset about it. So having those regular conversations, building that culture with whoever, me and my brother, me and business partners, me and my top guys, me and the, again, a spouse, whatever it is, make sure that you have a conversation saying, hey, I want to have a talk, maybe once a week, once a month, whatever it is, because all these emotions get bottled up and then they come out. And then maybe it ends up in a big fireball. Maybe this ends the relationship. Maybe this ends the partnership. Maybe this ends, something bigger that's not where you wanted to get to. So especially as a leader, I think it's very important to push the envelope, try to have those conversations. Not everybody likes to do that. Not everybody's comfortable doing that. And I understand everybody's different, but trying to slowly create that culture. For example, me and my PF guys, Nolan and Kyle, are two guys, my two best friends growing up, and they're running Priority Fitness. The three of us still aren't necessarily on perfect terms, as far like perfect wavelengths of conversation and having the hard conversation. We're just not there yet. We've drastically improved over the last 7, 8, 9 years. I mean, I'll say 10, 15 years, right? Because of even high school. We've obviously very much increased since high school, but when you're 19, 20, 21, 20, like those conversations, you're not mature enough. We don't understand how to have those conversations. And even to this day, we're still 27, 28, having those hard conversations isn't always easy. Your best friends, you're in business, separating friendship from business, like it's just not an easy conversation to have. So try to force that conversation. Try to make sure like, hey, why don't we just check up every Friday? Every Friday morning, Friday afternoon, Monday morning, pick your day, Saturdays, I don't care. Pick that day and just say, hey, why don't we just check in with each other and see if there's anything we could have done better this week for each other, right? Like, what notes did you take? What notes did I take? Because then they're not big, hard conversations. You go, well, hey, Tuesday, you kind of made a comment like this. I didn't really love it, but it wasn't that big of a deal, so I just kind of brushed it off. But if you would have said it a little bit differently, I would have probably felt a lot different about it. Or if you would have explained it a little bit better, I probably would have felt different about it. I think this would be a great tool to utilize. And we've obviously got a pretty large team, so I can't do that with everyone, but there's 3 to 5 people in your life that you should probably have regular conversations with. There's people that you're talking to daily. There's probably people you might be pissing off daily, or people that are pissing you off daily. And I'll go that route too. If there's people in your life that are irritating you, that are causing problems, and you're not willing to have a conversation with them, it's not easy to approach it that way. Hey, you've been really, we haven't been on the same page here, and I don't know if you know this, but I'm really not happy right now. I know that's a very hard approach, but I really strongly advise to have that conversation, because otherwise you're just not going to be happy. You're going to want to leave. You're not going to enjoy work. You're not going to enjoy going home, wherever that situation is. So it definitely takes like the bigger man, the bigger person to... Some people are just living their life and they're not even realizing they're having an effect on you like they are. So understand that I could say 5 things today that really made you mad, and I had no idea that I said them the way I did. And I would obviously apologize right away if I knew that they offended you, or that it wasn't, you didn't understand what I was saying. Oftentimes, again, it's a miscommunication. So sit down and have that conversation. And if that person's not willing to hear you out or understand where you're coming from, or, still says that you're wrong and they're not willing to make amends, or again, get on that same wavelength, I think that might be a tell to say, you know what, this relationship isn't worth it to me. I don't want to feel this way. I think that's important to move on, and move on quickly, because otherwise we're just, again, dreading it day by day by day. It's affecting our sleep. It's affecting our life. Maybe we're not getting our workouts in or our steps in, or we're not doing what we love to do because this one heavy situation. So we talked about that a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I think that's a very important thing to consider. It's not easy. We all go through it. Everybody has the same problem, or this problem as a whole. So... And I'm sure there's people maybe listening that haven't had a conversation with somebody for several years, several months, whatever it may be, because of a situation like this that got out of hand. And if that's you, and that's somebody that you used to love at one point, especially like family, really close friends, obviously I wouldn't really suggest going back to like a spouse that didn't just necessarily work out, especially if it's been 5-10 years. But that family member, that friend, that high school person, I really hope that you can amend that relationship at some point. I think you'd rather do it before it's too late. I don't think you want to wait until you're, on your maybe deathbed or whatever to have that conversation. So I really encourage you to be the bigger person, have that conversation, at least put it out there, and at least you can feel better about saying, hey, I tried to fix this, and that person still hasn't changed and they weren't willing to change. Then so be it. But at least you did what you could do. So anyways, I hope you guys get some value from that. That's my tip of the day. Obviously, next episode, or one of these next episodes, I'll talk about the trip that we had just gone on by the time you're hearing this. So if you want to add me on Snapchat, it's colton.burt, COLTON.BURT. Instagram, coltonburt19. Add me on Facebook. I hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you guys have a good, strong rest of your week. See you on the next one.